Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to Going Mental. I'm Paul Elam with A Voice for Men, and I am here with Dr. Tara Palmatier of PointForMen.com. Dr. T, would you like to say hi?
Hi.
This is going to be a little bit different than we had normally expected to do for this show. Typically, we were just going to straight out address men's mental health issues, and we will continue to do that in the future. And this is actually very much related to men's mental health issues, but it is going to revolve around a particular story. For those of you that don't know about it, in the low bar to this video, there is a link to an article on avoiceformen.com regarding a man named Chris McNey.
McNey.
McNey, yes, that suicided some months ago after a divorce. According to his suicide note, he had been subjected to abuse by his wife, by the courts. He had been alienated from his very young children. He had lost his employment where he was had a history of being successful at what he did, and he ended up hopeless and despondent and took his own life. This story did make several rounds somehow or another. I am assuming, I'm not going to say I know this, but I am assuming that there's a possibility that this unfortunate man found a way to get his note out there on the internet before he took his own life. Otherwise, we don't have any real explanation for how it got there. Whatever happened, it seems plausible that it was his will that people read this and know about it. And again, I'm saying that with some caution because I don't know the circumstances, all the circumstances behind his suicide and behind his divorce. What I do know is that according to his suicide note, which I have read and which is now posted to avoiceformen.com, it was a very, very rough go for him going downhill all the way till he hit bottom and could not take it anymore. We have since been contacted, matter of fact, today we're contacted by his ex-wife's attorneys saying that she had some sort of authority over his estate now, and that it came with a long list of websites, A Voice for Men being one of them, saying that they were demanding that this suicide note and any images of him and anything that she is now considering her property by copyright be taken down. We are not going to do that, at least without a tremendous fight. I want to get that out of the way first. We're not going to take this down. This is what we do at A Voice for Men, is that we deal with men who have gone through this horrible court system, and all too often we hear about them that have taken their lives, and this is another case like that. So we're going to discuss this case today and perhaps a little bit about the problem in general. But right now, we want to make people aware that at least what it appears to me, and after I say this, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. T for whatever she would like to say. What this looks like to me, and again, it's my opinion, I don't know it for a fact, but it looks to me like the former wife, and again, according to his note, she's a highly abusive person that did a lot of damage in his life. And he details a lot of that in the suicide note, which you can still read right now. And it looks to me like she's using the law to chase him down after he's dead and into the grave to issue her final edict demanding his silence about everything that happened. And that's why I'm prepared to fight over this. I find the idea of this possibility of his children never knowing how much their father loved them, what he was going through before he died, who knows what story that they will be raised with and what they will be told in their lives. And I find it unconscionable that they may never have a chance to know the truth about their dad. But anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. T for a few, and I want to hear what she has to say about it. Also, feel free, please, we're monitoring comments here, to put your comment in or any questions that you have, and we'll try to get to them as best we can.
Okay, well, as you point out, Paul, we don't have all of the facts in this story. Reading about it on ABFM today was the first time I'd heard of it. I don't follow the other sites that had it published. And you know, I read his note. I read the attorney, the law firm's takedown threat letter to you and to the other websites that had published the note. Not all of them were blogs. Some of them were actual news sources. I visited many of those sites today. I did a Google search for the links, and it appears that most of the other sites have taken down the story. I read his obituary in the Washington Post. He asked that donations be sent to an organization that helps abused men, and it appears while he was still alive, he had started his own blog, I believe titled "When Good Men Do Nothing," that is now password protected. His suicide note is heartbreaking. I mean, if it's, and I do believe it is genuine, otherwise the law firm probably would not be threatening so many websites to take it down. It talks about a man who was broken down, ground up, and spit out by the system, the family court system. He was successful. He had a good job as a real estate broker in I believe the D.C., Arlington, Virginia area, which you can find in the Washington Post article, so I'm not revealing anything that isn't public knowledge. And I would really love to know the details of his divorce and marriage, but it seems like he went through what a lot of men went through, where he tried his best and he was robbed of his assets, of his children, and had an ex who made his life a living hell every step of the way and taught their kids to hate their father. And in despair, and he lost his job. It sounds like he was struggling to keep up with child support payments. He killed himself, I believe, on December 29th of last year, 2013.
One of the things that struck me, Dr. T, about that note, and it always does, but the particularly heartbreaking aspect of it is his going back to referencing, just like you mentioned with the name of his blog, of what happens when good men do nothing, and how incredibly alone that he felt, that the court was against him, officials were against him, all the attorneys were against him. All he wanted to do was to be able to keep his head above water financially and have his kids and to be with them. And everybody, the whole world, it seemed like, and this is what happens. It's first of all no wonder that the suicide rate between men and women is like 4 to 1, and during the process of divorce and significant breakups, it goes up to something like 10 or 11 to 1. The isolation that is just oozing from this guy's note is one of the most, usually we try to crack jokes and stuff around on these programs that we do, and I'm just so totally not in a place for it today after reading this guy's story. It's just, it'll rip your heart out if you have one. And it really does cause me a lot of concern, like I've always had, for the society that we live in, that we can have somebody who's just being totally destroyed. I mean, out in the open, everything taken, his livelihood taken, his property, his children, his self-respect, everything. And on top of that, coming to get his freedom, because once they took his job, once they impoverished him, he couldn't pay child support. And you could feel the flavor of him not wanting to be in jail after a productive life, a professional life. and not wanting to end up there. It is just, and that is, that's why I'm willing to fight this. That somebody has to. I mean, the guy was right. When good men do nothing, evil flourishes, and it does. This is, we see a lot of this. I get emails all the time from people in trouble with family courts. I get pleas for assistance that I have to write them back and tell them I don't have any assistance for you. The most you can do is hunker down and try to survive, because there is no help. And this guy is now dead proof that there is no help. He had nobody to turn to, nobody for anything, in a culture that just stands by and watches this like it's supposed to be happening. I'm just literally at this moment out of words.
What I think may have happened to him, again, we don't know the details of the case, is what happens to a lot of men. I had a session that focused on this just this week. A lot of men go into family court thinking, I'm going to tell the truth, I want to see my kids, I'm a good dad, I'm going to play by the rules, and they get screwed left and right for playing by the rules that the system has in place. And it breaks them down, and it disillusions them, and it makes them cynical and jaded. Or worse yet, honestly, I think it's better to become cynical and jaded. I know of cases. I mean, look at the Lieutenant Colonel Joel Kirk's case. I mean, that guy is a Boy Scout. He did everything by the book, and he got fucked at every turn, even when he had incredible video evidence of the kind of abuse his ex-wife, Tina Taylor Kirk, was committing against the children and him. And he followed their rules, and it didn't get him anywhere. And the gentleman I was speaking to this week, unfortunately for him, his father-in-law is a retired judge, so he's doubly fucked because the system protects their own. And the corruption and the collusion that goes on is unimaginable. And when I read that letter, to me, it seemed like it was like the law firm and Chris Machney's ex-wife are trying to hide the remains of the body and act like nothing ever happened. But as far as I'm concerned, his ex-wife and that law firm that represented her, they've got their fingerprints all over the murder weapon, which was the family court system.
And that's
my comment today on the article you published on A Voice for Men that includes the letter was, even after death, his ex-wife seems to be trying to control and silence him. She can't even give him his last words, his suicide note, where he talks about his experience, and by the way, doesn't really trash her. He just states, that she tried to keep the kids away, she dealt with him unfairly, and that the system enabled her. And you know what? Had she just let this go, and this firm just let this go, this guy is a drop in the bucket. His story isn't that special or unique. But hopefully, if you are allowed to keep that online, I think we need, well, I don't want more suicides. That's not good. But more men and women, because sometimes this happens to women, need to stand up and talk about this experience. This week, maybe it was last week, I can't remember, I read a news article. The New York City Police Department was trying to do a public relations campaign on Twitter and asked people in New York to post their photos of positive interactions with NYPD officers. And what happened was people started posting photos of New York City police officers engaging in police brutality. And family court practices its own brand of brutality. And I think we have to have a record of that. Films like Divorce Corp are a good start. But we need more.
Might not be a fair comparison, Dr. T. There are some good police officers. I don't honestly believe anymore that there is a family court in this country that has the best interest of children in mind, or that has it in mind to restructure a family that has broken inside instead of just driving the nail in the coffin. That's what the system does in a routine way. And you're right. This guy is one guy. We've got special circumstances because we have his suicide note, and because the widow, I hate using that term, but I will,
Black widow,
is now running around threatening everybody, because that letter, his words, his dying words, is also her property that nobody else gets to see.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone who hasn't read the piece on AVFM yet, she's claiming that her deceased ex-husband, whom she tried to alienate the kids from, whom she impoverished, that his suicide note is her property and it's copyrighted. She's claiming copyright on her dead ex-husband's suicide note.
What do you say to that?
WTF?
Yeah.
WTF, bitch?
Seems inadequate.
Yeah, even that's inadequate. I just, it's like, it's loathsome.
You know, there are, I think, believe it or not, some women out there that would be trying to get to the bottom of the death of their children's father, and who would have the wisdom, and I know that there's women out there that have the wisdom, but this is the point about the loaded gun. When we talk about the loaded gun that this culture puts in the hands of women, this is exactly what we're talking about. Dr. T was not engaging in hyperbole when she said that the X's in the court's fingerprints are all over this corpse. It is. Women have the option in this culture to capriciously destroy lives and destroy their own children. I mean, can you imagine what these children are going to grow up with now, with a father that suicided, and who knows what story they'll be told? This is what our family courts produce, and they do it by handing women a gun and telling them they can use it with impunity. And I'm not saying that makes women any morally inferior to men at all, because I believe if you take any group of people and you tell them time after time after time, year after year after year, that you are owed, that you have this coming to you, that it's right for you to take anything that you want, they're going to end up doing it. I mean, that's what happens when you put childish power in the hands of a grown-up. And so, again, I'm not blaming women for this. It is our courts that are killing people. And I hope a few more women stand up, because I know that there are every other weekend grandmothers out there. I know there's lots of them. I know there's lots of grandmothers that have been cut off entirely from their grandchildren, don't get to see them at all. I know that there is sisters of men and mothers of men that have watched their brothers and their sons destroyed this way over and over and over again. And it just blows my mind. It really blows my mind that there is not a thundering collective outrage about this, and that judges aren't getting voted out of office left and right, and that politicians aren't getting voted out of office left and right until they straighten this mess up.
They won't straighten this mess up voluntarily. They profit from it.
Right. But the thing is...
That's like asking the foxes to fix the broken latch on the hen house door. Why would they?
I'm going to go with George Carlin on this one. And we get what we asked for in this culture. We allow this to happen. We can vote the bastards out of office and let them know why we're voting them out of office, and voters could tell judges and other politicians, fix this or we'll vote you out. You're going to be a one-term wonder. Everybody's going to be a one-term wonder until you quit destroying our families and our children. And because it's not happening to women, because it's only happening to men, then people don't do anything about it. And it is the absolute pits, the depth of social lack of empathy and lack of concern. It is a very frustrating problem. We had a commenter a moment ago that said, I hope that this thing goes full Streisand and that it explodes. And I do too. And, you know, that's part of what we're doing here now is talking about it for that reason. But what good does Streisand effect do with people that look at a destroyed life and a dead guy and say, well, what did he do? And, you know, that it is not just the injustice in the courts that needs to be confronted. It's the mentality of people in this culture that are just out of tune with any sense of compassion for men and boys or for children. Everything in them is wrapped up. If the woman wants it, no matter if it kills the children, no matter if it kills the husband, give it to the woman. And I'm pretty tired of this. And I hope more people are getting tired of it. But sometimes I don't know.
Well, I think until something, unfortunately, I think with the way our society is, until it hits somebody in their own home, they don't want to know. It's too scary to contemplate. I don't think it's that they don't care, but let's face it, if you're a man and you're married and you have kids, this could happen to you. Doesn't matter if she's sweet right now. Something goes wrong, she decides she's bored, she has the power to upend your life with impunity in most cases.
That's when we hear from them. That's when those of us that are involved in doing this kind of work hear from them. I'll venture to say, and it's certainly no offense to Dr. T's clients, that's when Dr. T hears from them, when things get rough. And that's when I get emails from people saying, can you please help? I don't, they've taken all my money and I can't afford a lawyer. And we hear from people then, they're outraged then. But these are, to some extent, the same people that have seen this happen to men before them, men around them, many times, and did not lift a finger. That's my only, you know, I honestly, and I'm not kidding about this, I could not take this, doing this. I would never open my email if I didn't know that most of the people that were writing me for help that I can't give them are people that have never done anything until it happened to them. That's the only thing that saves my conscience, because it's gut-wrenching to read these emails to say, I loved my wife for 15, 20 years. I did everything. I worked. I brought all my money home. I never cheated, never hit her, never did anything. And now she's taking everything. Can you help me? And I can't. Boy. Mm-hmm. Not a very upbeat talk today.
Well, I know how you feel. Oftentimes, at least once a day. You know, the sad and harsh reality is that you can't, I can't fix a corrupt and broken family court system. You know, the best I can do is to offer advice. Have you considered this? Hey, quit giving her money you're not court ordered to because you want to be the good guy. And a lot of times what I try to do is help men get their self-preservation instincts to kick in. Because they're willingly bleeding themselves for their exes who will just take until there is nothing left but an empty husk, and
And then they'll get
sometimes,
mad at them for being an empty husk.
well, that's right, and go to jail now that I've taken everything and you've got nothing left to give, you deadbeat. You know, who's the deadbeat? The person who's busting his ass working 3 jobs, or the person who's collecting checks for doing fuck all? Who's the deadbeat? All right. But as I discussed with a client earlier this week, look, you know, you've tried playing by their rules. It's not working. I'm not telling you to break the law, but you can either keep playing by their rules and continue to impoverish yourself and to feel hopeless, defeated, and despair, or maybe you need to walk away from the kids for a while and hope that they can come back to you at some point as they get older and work on rebuilding your life, your emotional well-being, your financial well-being. And then the third choice I see, which comes with its own risk and perils, is to FTSU. And for those of you who don't know what that means fuck their shit up. And you publicly shame these people using blogs, social media, put your story out there. Sometimes you might go to jail. There was a man, I think it was in Michigan last year, who went to jail because he posted on his private Facebook page, which was private, not public, that he didn't think a judge's ruling in his family court case was fair. His ex-wife somehow managed to access his page, took a screenshot of it, brought it to the judge, and the guy got thrown in jail just for saying he wasn't happy with a judge's ruling, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Judges are not gods. They're people in black robes.
That was 5 years.
Yeah, five years for a Facebook post saying he disagreed and wasn't happy with a judge's decision. Okay? This is the kind of insanity that is going on. But then there are cases where publicly exposing these cockroaches in robes, these cockroaches with law degrees, these cockroaches with MSWs and psychology degrees, works. And judges get recused, like in Colonel Kirk's case. And crooked ADAs like Mary Collette, well, she didn't lose her law license, but if her cronies are voted out of office in Ellsworth, Maine, good luck to her getting another job as an attorney anywhere.
Never happened.
With the sanctions levied upon her by the state of Maine. So sometimes publicly exposing them, shining the sunlight on their abuses will work. Or it could land you in jail, or it could mean that you will not get to see your kids until you're 18, but what the hell? It's not like you're getting anywhere by doing what they tell you to do. You're just making it easier for them to screw you and your kids. So my message to guys out there is if you are in that position, don't end your life. I know it hurts to lose your kids. I know it's gut-wrenching. It's heartbreaking. But they won't be kids forever, and there's always a chance that you might be able to have a relationship with them later. So take care of yourself, get help, get support, talk to people. And even if your kids don't come back to you, there's a whole world out there. You can have friendships, you can have a meaningful career. Your life is not worth some twisted person you were once married to.
There's another answer, too, that I think is encouraging, and it's called MGTOW. And I'm a huge supporter of the idea. You know, guys, you don't have to get married. You can even love somebody without marrying them. You can actually plan your life, even if it involves another person, if you're careful, if you study the laws in your state, and if you actually treat your life like it's something worth protecting. There is a lot that you can do to prevent some of these things from happening to you. And in some places, you know, where I am in Texas, marriage, just don't. Just don't even think about it, because prenup, useless. toilet paper means nothing. They will tear that up and take your shit as quick as you please and not think twice about it. Don't enter a contract with the state, because that's what marriage is. It is saying, I'm going to make a contract. The wife comes with the deal for a while until she possibly gets tired of you, or until the pool boy starts looking hot, or until you're 7 years into your career and you're making peak money, and she's sitting there with a calculator figuring the child support for one kid, the net worth, and your income. And if you think that some women aren't that calculated, you're out of your mind. You need to learn better. They're every bit that calculated, and they will go look for it, and they will get it, and they'll point the finger at you. And if you're lucky, you won't end up like Christopher. If you're lucky. You don't have to enter a contract with the state, because that's what marriage is. And believe you me, that after your wife is gone, the state doesn't go away. The state you're still married to, and they're going to take from you and take from you and take from you until you're used up. And a lot less men, the numbers of men willing to get married is dropping, and I think that's perfectly appropriate for this culture until they get these problems sorted out. The problem guys that are out there now are the ones that get starry-eyed over a woman and nobody. I was on the radio program last night with Bob O'Hara, one of the callers called in and talked about hitting this brick wall trying to talk this young friend of his out of getting married. And it was just like the guy couldn't hear it. And he even acknowledged that he knew she had a loaded gun and that she could use it, and that she hadn't even known him that long. And he still wanted to go for it. That kind of stuff is what can get you dead, and it can certainly get you broke, and it can get you screwed over by a system that is designed to screw you over. That's what it's there for. Don't get married. It's not necessary. Don't sign your life away to the state that you live in, because that's exactly what they'll take.
And a lot of guys will say, but I want to have kids, I want to have a family. Have kids. Have a family. But don't marry her. And before you have kids, it may not be legally binding in some states, but get a prenuptial, or it wouldn't be a prenuptial if you're not getting married, but get a contract in place that discusses how custody will be handled should you separate. Even if it's not legally binding, I would do it. You know why? Because you're going to get a pretty darn good idea how the woman who claims she loves you so much and wants to be with you forever and be the mother of your children is going to handle custody and parenting should your relationship not work out.
Dr. T, we have a comment from somebody that I'm not going to put this up because I'm not going to put their username there, and the idea here is not to attack anybody or to make fun of anybody, but I am just going to repeat the comment, which is talking about from their experience that foreign women are more compassionate.
Okay, keep going.
Well, it's the first time, and since we've been sitting here talking, I've wanted to laugh. And I'm sir, whoever you are, I'm not making fun of you, but you know what can you say about people that put themselves on an internet site willing to marry a stranger just because they're American citizens? Do you really think that this is a person of compassion or of opportunity, or of somebody that's looking for a meal ticket? I have encountered story after story from about Russian women, about Filipino women, about women from all over the globe that grab themselves an American husband, get here, and as quickly as they can, and get something out of it, divorce him, take everything, and go integrate into the community of their nationality in wherever in America that they live. Um, and
And they know all they have to do is file a DV charge, and they will
that'll give them
get
a green card.
citizen status. That
Yep.
will get them a lot of money and housing and.
That is written into VAWA, by the way, just so
Yes,
you
it
know.
is.
It is written into VAWA that on the allegation of domestic violence, she can get fast-tracked into permanent residency in this country, and then, of course, you can...
USA!
That's right, USA, baby. I don't think women are more compassionate from overseas. I don't think they're less compassionate from
Nope.
overseas.
Sociopaths of any nationality are still sociopaths. They might do it behind a little shy giggle.
Which they know you want to see.
Mhm.
And
I would
telling
say
you that they believe the
women.
man should be in charge.
I would say women selling themselves in matrimony on a website are actually just being more upfront and honest about their opportunistic nature. That's not to say
If you're listening.
all foreign brides are like that. I don't even know what that acronym would be.
I'm not going to try to pronounce it.
No, but I can think of at least a dozen cases off the top of my head where men married foreign brides from nations that were not first world countries, and in quick order, after they got them back to the States, the wheels fell off the bus, DV charges were filed, and these guys couldn't figure out how their sweet little non-Western woman could do such a thing.
They can, and they do. So, with all respect to the commenter, I really believe that, and I understand it. I understand guys in this culture really wanting to believe that in some other culture that there are still rules and guidelines that sort of curtail hypergamy and that or more facilitate good relationships. And I know there's always somebody in the crowd that says, well, I married a woman from Japan and it's wonderful and I'm happy for you. But what I do know is I was in the military. I was stationed in Korea for 13 months. And I know how many women there wanted to go to the big PX in the States. And I know how many soldiers came back and found themselves in trouble with their commands and in trouble with law enforcement. And this is before VAWA. And they ended up getting cleaned out. Thinking, wishful thinking. And I don't blame a person. I mean, everybody wants love, everybody wants companionship, and everybody wants to feel a sense of trust in a relationship. But telling yourself that it's more abundant out of one culture than the next, my personal opinion, that's not a very smart way to go.
No, and it's not smart to legally bind yourself to somebody you've only had interactions with over Skype. One of the ways you avoid getting into these messes is to really know someone over time. Observe them in multiple settings. Observe what their character is. Yeah, so I mean, it's not to say there aren't exceptions to that. I'm sure there are, but I don't think that it's a fail-safe plan to avoid the kind of devastation that we were talking about here today.
Mastonship has just recommended that anybody not believing this go get a copy of Eddie Murphy's Raw.
I
take a
remember
look
that.
at that where he talks about.
I want half, Eddie. I want half.
Suck my dick, Mr. Fuck You Man.
That's right. I remember that.
Oh God, I needed that laugh.
Oh, so did I.
Listen, folks, we're going to go ahead and probably wrap it up here pretty soon. I do want to get out a couple of points. One, if you got a blog, write about this. If you don't want to take the chance on putting up the suicide letter, I understand, but there is nothing prohibiting anybody from blogging about this tragic case. You can do some of your own research. You can read the article that's at avoiceformen.com. There is still free speech in this country, and you can talk about this on your YouTube channels. You can talk about this on websites, on blogs, and forums, and you can try to give this some momentum, because right now a court is being used to bury the facts behind a man's suicide, to bury his last words, his last thoughts, and to bury the pain that he went through at the hands of the court. So I have no problem believing that it was easy to get a judge to sign off on this, because I'm
under the auspices of it's in the best interests of the children that their mother not be implicated in the father's suicide.
Yes, it's always in the best interest of the children. You can ask Joel Kirk.
I've come to view attorneys like I view flesh-eating bacteria. Not all of them. I actually know some attorneys who I like and respect very much, but
you do?
Yeah. On a good day.
I know one or two myself. I'm just kidding. I know
Hi, RK.
Yeah. Hi, RK.
Hi, Rob Franklin.
Hi, Robert Franklin. Well, that's my list.
I have a few more, but I don't want to broadcast it publicly.
Let me just say before we close here, if, as Dean always says at the end of our programs on Intelligence Report, if you are in an abusive relationship or think you might be, I strongly encourage you to visit Dr. Palmatier's website, shrinkformen.com. Read a few dozen articles there. And if you're not convinced that she knows what your experience is and what you're dealing with, then you're probably not convincible at that point. She also has service for fee available, and is one of only 2 clinicians I know that I would refer people to. If you have any mind for activism, if you have any desire to stop this kind of injustice at all, and you haven't been there, come visit avoiceformen.com. Read articles there, get to know the community there. We have a very robust and active community of people that really do care. I wish this man would have been able to find us before he took his life, because it might have made a difference. But come on over and visit. Don't get married, not to anybody. I don't care, Asian, whatever, doesn't make a difference. And it is, again, the problem is the system, and we always have an open invitation to anybody that wants to help us try to fix it. If you're ready to walk straight uphill with us, pushing a boulder, we would love to have you. Dr. T, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we sign off?
If you are going to get married, get a prenup, even if it's meaningless. Keep your assets separate. Do not commingle your assets. Discuss things like, are you going to work after we have kids? If this relationship doesn't work out, how do we handle custody? Ask these questions. I know when you're all hormonal and love is great and woo, rainbows are shooting out every orifice, you don't want to think about that stuff. But it is better to think about it before you say I do than 5, 6, 7 years down the road and you're figuring this out in front of a judge or in a mediator's office with the misandric, female, mommy-biased court system who will only be too happy to give her whatever she wants at your expense and at the children's expense. So do your due diligence. If you really want to have kids, get a surrogate. at this point, if I were a man and I wanted to have a family, there is no way I would get married with the laws as they are, and I would look into having a surrogate, and then you do your best to provide healthy female role models and maternal role models for your kids that aren't necessarily their biological mother. It's not ideal, but if you really want to have kids and you actually want to be a father to them and not just their father on the capricious whims of your ex-wife, that's what you do.
When we say they can take it all, that's what we mean. They can take it all, everything. Well, I want to thank everybody for stopping in today. I see we had a pretty good sized crowd. I really appreciate that. Would appreciate people spreading this video around. One thing you can do to help get the word out about this case is maybe embed this video on your website or blog. Feel free to mirror it. I have no problem with it. This is about getting the word out on this story and encourage others to not shut up about this. The moment we shut up is the moment that this guy's death is for nothing, and would like a better option than that. Farewell, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.